Hi everybody, my name is Chris Composer. It's good to see you again. Today I want to talk about the CK61, connecting to a cigarette lighter 12 volt accessory. Most batteries that you purchase have an accessory 12 volt connector, like the Jakerys and the Blue Eddies and all the other companies out there that create this stuff. Also, vehicles have those things, and today what I want to see, so I can connect this guy right here to an accessory jack safely. So stay tuned. I'll see you in a second. So here we're looking at the Yamaha PA150B power supply. This is a barrel type connector that is very common, by the way. And by looking at the label, it shows 12 volts and it shows a maximum capability of power at 1.5 amp at 18 watts. And the connector, the middle pin is positive and the outer sheathing is negative. That part is very important. On the safe side, I personally believe that there's a good voltage threshold on the keyboard. That's my assumption, that if your voltage is 13 point something and the requirement's 12.1, is 1 volt going to fry something? I don't know. I did some research, and so one can only assume that this shouldn't be a problem. And in fact, I'll show you. I'll connect it directly to the 12 volt Jakery, and we'll see what happens. However, for those of you who seriously think, and I don't blame you because I'm kind of the same way in a way, there's no way you'd connect 13 volts to the Yamaha CK61 if the manual tells you that it might overheat and that you have to keep it at the voltage of the power adapter. I can't disagree with that. So I was thinking, what's the best way? So what I decided to do is I decided to get myself a voltage regulator. This is not for everyone to do on their own, but it's not that hard or complicated. So the voltage regulator, like this one right here, I bought the voltage regulator from AliExpress for a good price. This one here, there's a link in the description below. It's not very big, and it's pretty straightforward how it works. It will accept a range of voltage coming into it, and you can regulate it to have exactly the voltage you want coming out of it. So this little guy right here, very, very tiny. I've worked with stuff like this before. I have another one that I'm using for another project. But, see, I can't even open it. I will open it. We're going to go in the lab and I'm going to basically go through it and measure it and set it all up and create a cable that you can put in to a 12 volt socket without worrying about any problems. Is it necessary? I don't know. I don't think so. But if you want to be sure, you want to protect your equipment, and you do have tools to measure and calibrate this little guy, because there's a screw on the unit to allow you to adjust the voltage. You know, if this is not something you want to do, then I would say maybe just use the power adapter on a Jakery or a battery that has a 12 volt thing. But for the ones that want to do a gig and they say, you know, I want to connect to a car battery from my gig, and it's straight up and it's all over the place, then maybe a little guy like this one might be what you're looking for. Let's go in the lab, Let's go check it out. Okay, so we are in the lab, and if you don't want to risk it and connecting this directly to a Jakery and plugging this into your keyboard, then I don't blame you. Personally, I think that it's not an issue at all. 1 volt is, I'm sure the electronics have definitely more than 1 volt tolerance, plus or minus, and I would definitely use it this way, personally. However, if you want to be very careful not to damage your unit or void any kind of warranty, then what I would definitely do is get something called a voltage regulator. So right now, see if you can see this, you'll notice that voltage is, now if it was 12.25, it would be perfect. So if you really want to be careful, the next step would be to use a voltage regulator, such as this one right here. This here is a adjustable buck, they call it, where it basically regulates your voltage from an input between from 22 volts to 3 to 15 volts. And what you would do is, instead of using this cable that you can buy, by the way, in Amazon for relatively cheap, and believe it or not, the default configuration with the positive in the center and the negative on the ring, or the sheathing, or whatever they call it, that would work. And it is pretty straightforward. It basically shows you, and oh, by the way, they may look all the same, so make sure you get this one. DC 8 to 22 volts, output between 3 to 15 volts. Your input is the black and red, because it says it right there, and your output is the yellow and black. So yellow is positive, black is negative. I think they're using very common logic here. But if you're not sure, they do tell you right there and right there. So yeah, and how do I adjust the output? By this guy right here. Now, here's the part that gets a little technical. So if you're not comfortable with soldering, or worst case, putting it one cable to another kind of thing, maybe what I would do is just stick to using the power adapter and just plug it into your AC accessory of a Jakery, for example. This might be your better solution. It does add an extra 5 watt. You can play keyboards for many hours just with this bad boy here. And this guy's a 240, I believe, watt. Yeah, it's a 240 watt hour. Okay, going back to what we were doing. So I decided to buy this for a few bucks, not the most expensive thing in the world, but I bought it just for this video, because I figured I don't want to be stuck in a situation where I kind of recommending using a direct cable, and then all of a sudden people are freaking out because at 1 volt extra, that 1 extra volt fried their keyboard or something. By the way, I did open up the keyboard, and I have video on that as well. And I can tell you Yamaha uses the best quality. It's very, very well designed. Anyway, all right, back to what we were doing. So I had instead of taking this cable here, which I could have done, and simply cut it and then put this in line, I decided no. I had some spare stuff, so I figured I would use a spare one that I had. If this doesn't work, you can buy from AliExpress your brand new ones that you could use. I don't want to use those just yet. I have other projects for this. So I'm gonna kind of like, I don't even remember what this was for. But anyways, for this video, let's do it. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna be using a power supply and measure the voltage and adjust this thing to what I want it to be at. You don't have to do it that way. You could do it as long as you have yourself maybe a meter to measure and make sure you get that 12.1 or 12.2 volts that Yamaha would like you to have. Then you could do it that way. I like to do it the other way because it's a lot more designer friendly for me, or easier for me to do some work. So what I'm going to do is basically turn this guy on. And the lead's right here. It is currently at 12.2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up to 13.2. So it matches. Oh, so let's bring it to 13.2. Oh, heck, let's bring it to 13.3 just in case, just from a good measure. All right. Now that I've put that voltage up, I'm just going to measure it and make sure that I'm at that voltage. .3. It's pretty right on the nose. I'm just going to tweak it just a little bit. Okay, that's good, close enough for me. Yeah, 13.26. So this is simulating this guy's voltage output. And it would also simulate maybe a lead acid battery like this one. So we got this going. So the easiest way to go would be to take this guy right here. So what I can do is quickly I'm going to use one of these things. Turn this one too. There we go. That works. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to add voltage to it right now, and if it explodes, well, this is the place for it to explode. Okay, and just to be on the safe side, as I'm goofing around with this stuff, it's always best to be a little on the safe side, right? I'm just going to cover up the negative real quick like that to avoid any contacts. Nothing's going to happen really on that end. I'm more worried about this end here. So we're looking at this guy now. And we're going to do the same thing with this guy. Just want to make sure I got the right size here. Using alligator clips to connect to the meter lead tips. It's just a way to be more convenient for me to do this. And we're going to quickly start measuring what we got. So I'm just going to connect the positive to the yellow and the negative so nothing explodes in my face. All right. Basically, you're seeing here 11.15 or 0.4 volts. So what we need to do is flip this guy around and basically adjust the voltage output. So gently, counterclockwise, bring it up. All right, we're almost there. There. 12.17, 12.2. We've got the perfect voltage right now set on this thing here as an output for the keyboard. So the keyboard would get from this guy 13.2 volts going through this regulator, this buck regulator, and then would go from the yellow and the black lead to my handy dandy connector that I've used for something else. Again, you could use this and do that with that and do a cleaner job than what I'm going to be doing. But this is just to show you how we can get this done. All right. But it's very important that you measure. You have a voltmeter of some sort. So now it's time to do the assembly. All right. So in this situation here, I'm going to solder my little tips to this. Where's my donor cable? It's right here. And what I'm just going to do is, so this is the source, right? So the input is here, right? So we put in the 13 volts here, and this is where the 12 volts going to come out. So what I always use, this is an old thing I've had for a long time. Alligator clips on the little arm so that it saves me the trouble of trying to use my fingers. Again, if you're not equipped to do this, you can use different methodologies to do this. In this case here, let's see how accurate I can get this. So I have to try to get these a little more there. That's gonna work. Put a little bit on the tip, just touch it. And we're done. Don't overdo it because it gets messy or nothing. And then the other one, I put in a clip here. Take this bad boy here. You know, the goal of my channel is to kind of go into everything when having your studio, which includes doing some electronic work. But not everybody is into that sort of thing. But I'm going to keep my channel pretty open to every skill set out there. So it's basically that little ball there. I'm just going to touch it. Done. And we're done. So the next step would be to make sure that your stuff is not exposed. So that those little shrink tubings that I put up here, I'll just put it on top like that. Like that. Now I use a heat gun, very small one, which I find to be very, very useful for me. But again, you could use a lighter to do it if you'd like, but I don't. And I have a lot of clutter in my workshop. All right, so then we're just gonna shrink them. Oh, wait, not yet. Oh, no. There you go. Shrink this guy up. And same with this guy right here. It's not perfect. but it does the job very well. All right, we're good to go. So now it's all done. It's nice and solid. Now for the final part, we basically do the same thing. Well, this is experimental. I should have, if I would have done this in a permanent way, I would have probably put some shrink tubing all the way here to make it nice and clean. But this is just an experiment. So now I've got this donor connector, and it does have a ferrite coil around it. So bonus. I mean, it's good for getting rid of RF. So I don't know which one. I got to figure out for the center here, which one this is. So I'm just going to use my meter again. I'll put on 200 ohm so you can hear the beep. There's a 200 ohm. So I'm going to set it on the 200 ohm so you can hear the beep, which I love this thing. And I've had this since college, when I was 18 years old. I was like, last year? No, okay. All right. So basically what I do is I put this in the middle because I want to know which one's the positive. Now you can see here that the cables are marked somehow, but does it mean it's negative or positive? I bet you the one with a stripe is positive. And it is. Okay. So we know the one with the stripe is a positive, so and the one without is a negative. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I think in this situation here, I think I'm going to just get a little more copper out of that little cable. Let's just go here and just get a little bit more. Best we can. Oh, wait. I need shrink tubing. I'm going to be generous on this. I'm just going to put that here. Take the other piece of tubing here. All right, let's do our negative. Well, let's put some solder on there. Do a little ball. Perfect. That's good. And then we do the same with the yellow one. I'm going to twist them together a bit. A lot of copper. There you go. And our cable is done. So let's go and test it out first on the meter and everything. We did construct this and we did put it together and it tested okay, but there's one thing that a few of you may say is that you can't see where the fuse is. I'm suspecting there's a 5 amp fuse in here. Most of these units all have fuses. And I think this one is no exception. Yeah, there's a fuse. So as long as you get a unit with a fuse, you should be okay. However, this guy cannot handle more than a few amps. So this guy will start melting if you plug this thing in, let's say, a 12-volt cooler or something like that. I got this particular unit for the sole purpose for using it with a low amperage requirement. The keyboard has a low amp requirement, so meaning that it doesn't draw that much power. So this is perfectly okay. So if you're going to build this cable, please make sure that you only use it for your keyboard. Like I saw on AliExpress some feedback about this, and some guy said, oh yeah, I put it with my lead acid batteries and the thing melted, and he shows a picture of this guy right here friggin' melted at the cables, and I'm going, that has nothing to do with this guy. At this point, you're drawing so much power that your cables got hot and it melted the sheathing on it. So yeah, so that was my disclaimer. So if you're going to build this, do it at your own risk. But you could do this relatively really cheap. In fact, AliExpress, this is a few dollars, and you can buy a pack of 2 of these things for $3, and you can make it, and it comes with crimpers and everything, so you can use any kind of cables and stuff. All right, back to the test. We have the Jakery right here, and we have the CK61 right here, and we're going to connect it. I always forget what this thing is. We're going to connect it right here. All right, so here's a modified cable that we're going to use, and we're just going to put it right here. Plug it in, plugged in, click. All right, and then we're going to take this guy and we're going to turn it on. And guess what? The keyboard came on right away. And I'm going to turn on the speaker, and it works. It works really well. And we're ready to go. So we know this works because we get the right voltage. So we're really following the exact same thing that the power adapter that comes with the unit has as far as voltage output. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a risk and take the normal cable, and I will take that risk for you. I will plug it in. I don't think anything's going to happen, but I'll plug it into the Jakery. So we're going to just pull the plug, just to show you. So we pull the plug, it's off, and we're going to go direct this time with this brand new connector. And I'm going to plug it in right now. Fits perfectly. Now keep in mind that if you're not comfortable doing this, just don't do it. But voltage varies from place to place all the time. These units are designed to handle voltage spikes up and down all over the place. So that's why 1 volt, I don't even think it's an issue. But put this guy in. All right. And the keyboard just came back on. There you go. So I'm going to leave that on, and I'll see you guys later. Good morning. So we're the next day, and keyboard is still running, and everything. I don't feel any heat, and the battery is still at 83%. So the keyboard's been on for 12 hours on this battery. Everything's okay, and it's got the straight cable. So we'll be back tonight and we'll take a look. I'm off to work. So let's see what happens. So I've tried everything I could without taking the keyboard apart too much. I don't really see an issue really putting, a 13.6 volt load on it. But they do say in the manual not to do that. So then I can't recommend it. However, I've done it anyways. And maybe I'm taking a bit of a risk. So without having the actual service manual for the circuit board, I can only assume that they do some kind of voltage regulation in there. And I'm not too worried about 1.2, 1.3 volts more. I think that's way, way above tolerance. I think if you put in 25 volts in there, maybe something would fry. But again, you got to go back to the manufacturer. I measured their power supply, and their power supply was giving us 12.2 volts. Very clean power supply. And so, yeah. So use it at your own risk. Take care. See you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.